I knew hiring him was a mistake.
Sir, I didn't touch your briefcase.
First day and you're already making trouble?
I'm only trying to help.
Mr. Lucas, I knew you'd be here.
Good morning, Lily.
They blamed him for missing files. They humiliated him in front of executives, and eventually they walked him out of the building like he was nobody. But 3 weeks later, that same janitor walked back into the most important boardroom in the company. Only this time, he wasn't wearing a janitor's uniform. He was wearing a black suit, and the company's chairman stood up and said 6 words that left the entire room speechless. Please welcome Sterling Group's new CEO. Nobody clapped. Nobody moved because everyone in that room knew exactly who he was, and they suddenly realized they had made the biggest mistake of their lives. This is the story of Lucas Hayes, and what happened inside Sterling Group would teach an entire company that sometimes the person you look down on may be the person you should have been looking up to. Every morning before the executives arrived at Sterling Group, Lucas Hayes was already there. 5:45 a.m. every single day. The skyscraper was still dark. The parking garage was nearly empty. The elevators were quiet. And while most of the city's professionals were still asleep, Lucas was already pushing his cleaning cart through the lobby. He wore a simple blue uniform, black work shoes, and a name badge that said Lucas Hayes Facilities. Nobody would have guessed that Lucas had once managed his own small business. Nobody would have guessed that he'd spent years studying management, and nobody certainly would have guessed that Sterling Group's chairman had been quietly watching him for months. To most employees, Lucas was invisible. He was the guy who emptied their trash, the guy who cleaned their coffee spills, the guy who wiped fingerprints off the glass doors. People rarely said hello. Some didn't even look at him. But Lucas never complained. He believed something his father had taught him when he was a kid. It doesn't matter who is watching. Do the right thing anyway. And Lucas lived by those words every single day. One morning, around 7 o'clock, Sterling Group's chairman, Walter Bennett, walked into the lobby. Lucas looked up. "Good morning, Mr. Bennett." Walter stopped. "Good morning, Lucas." Lucas smiled. "How are you today, sir?" "Doing well." Walter looked around the empty lobby. Then he looked back at Lucas. "You're always here before everyone else." Lucas shrugged. "Someone has to be." Walter smiled. "Do you ever get tired of this job?" Lucas thought about it. Then he said, "Sometimes." Walter raised an eyebrow. "But?" Lucas looked at the polished floor. "But every job matters if you do it right." Walter didn't answer. He simply nodded. Then he walked toward the elevators. But as the elevator doors closed, Walter quietly smiled because that answer told him something very important. That same week, a new executive joined Sterling Group. Her name was Olivia Brooks. She was intelligent, ambitious, highly educated, and very confident. On her first morning, Olivia stepped into the executive lobby and noticed Lucas cleaning near the conference rooms. She looked at her assistant. "Who is he?" "Facilities." Olivia frowned. "Why is he working up here?" "He cleans the executive floor." Olivia nodded. "Cold. Well, make sure he stays out of the way during meetings." Lucas heard her. He didn't react. He simply moved his cart aside. "Good morning, ma'am." Olivia barely looked at him. "Morning." And that was the beginning. Serious. Olivia had already made up her mind about Lucas. She just didn't know it yet. A few days later, Olivia walked into the office carrying an expensive black briefcase. Inside were confidential documents for a major client meeting. She placed it beside a conference room. Then she stepped away for less than 5 minutes. When she returned, the briefcase was gone. What? She searched the hallway. Nothing. She checked the conference room. Nothing. Then someone said, "I saw Lucas near here." Olivia immediately turned toward him. "Lucas?" He looked up. "Yes, ma'am." "Did you move my briefcase?" Lucas shook his head. "No." "Are you sure?" "Yes." Olivia crossed her arms. "Then why were you standing right here?" "I was cleaning the hallway." She stared at him. "You understand that briefcase contains confidential company information." "I didn't touch it." Olivia's voice became colder. "Then where is it?" Lucas looked around. He noticed something underneath a nearby table. He walked over, pulled something out, and placed it on the table. Olivia's eyes widened. Her briefcase, Lucas said quietly. It was underneath the table. There was an awkward silence. Olivia grabbed it. Fine. She walked away. No apology, no thank you. Lucas simply picked up his cleaning cart and continued working, thoughtful. But someone had witnessed everything, Walter Bennett, and once again he said nothing. Serious. A week later, another incident happened. Olivia's executive access card disappeared. It was eventually found beside the coffee machine, and Lucas had it in his hand. Olivia immediately confronted him. "Why do you have my access card?" Lucas looked confused. "I found it on the floor." "That card opens executive offices." "I know. Then why were you holding it?" "Because I was going to return it." Olivia stared at him. "Next time, don't touch something that doesn't belong to you." Lucas nodded. "Understood." One of the executives nearby laughed. "Looks like we have a detective on the cleaning staff." A few people chuckled. Lucas didn't. He simply walked away. Pause. But Walter was watching again, and this time he wasn't watching the executives. He was watching Lucas, because Lucas had every reason to be angry, softly, but he wasn't. Then came the incident that changed everything. A critical set of documents disappeared from the executive conference room. The documents contained information about one of Sterling Group's biggest upcoming deals. People panicked. Managers started searching. Executives started blaming each other. Then someone said, "Lucas was in the conference room last night." Everyone turned towards him. Lucas froze. "I didn't take anything." Olivia stepped forward. "Then you won't mind if we check your locker?" "Of course not." They searched it. Nothing. Still, suspicion remained. One executive said, "Those files were there before he arrived." Lucas looked around the room. "I understand." Olivia sighed. "Lucas, give me your company ID." He slowly removed it from his shirt. He placed it in her hand. "I'm sorry. I'm just protecting the company." Lucas looked at her. "I understand." Then he paused. "And I hope the truth finds its way here." He walked away. Pause. That was his last day at Sterling Group. At least, that's what everyone thought. Sad. Lucas stood outside the building that evening with one small box in his hands. 30 days. That's how long he had worked there. 30 days of accusations. 30 days of being ignored. 30 days of doing the right thing while nobody seemed to notice. As he reached the sidewalk, he heard a familiar voice. Gentle. "Mr. Lucas." He turned. It was Lily, the young daughter of one of the employees. She ran toward him carrying a small lunch bag. "What's this?" "My lunch." Lucas smiled. "Then why are you giving it to me?" "My grandpa says good people shouldn't go home hungry." Lucas looked down at the bag. For the first time that day, his eyes filled with tears. Emotional. "Thank you, Lily." She hugged him. "Are you coming back?" Lucas smiled sadly. "I don't know." Then he looked back at the Sterling Group building. "I hope you have a good life, Lily." And he walked away. Pause. That next morning, Sterling Group discovered something strange. The missing documents weren't stolen. They had been placed in the wrong archive folder. Then the company discovered something else. The access card had been found exactly where Lucas said he'd found it. The briefcase incident. Lucas had been telling the truth. And then someone discovered the biggest problem of all. The company's computer system had been showing warning signs for weeks. Lucas had reported the issue. Nobody listened. Then the system failed during an important presentation. The IT department discovered that Lucas had documented the problem days earlier. He had even written down the exact time he noticed it. The room went silent. Olivia stared at the report. She remembered what Lucas had said. "I hope the truth finds its way here." And suddenly she realized the truth had been there the entire time. They just hadn't wanted to see it. 3 weeks later, every senior executive received an urgent message. Special board meeting, 10 a.m. Nobody knew why. By 10, the boardroom was full. Walter Bennett stood at the head of the table. Olivia sat quietly. The executives whispered among themselves. One man asked, "Who's coming?" Walter looked at the clock. "We're still waiting for one person." "Who?" Walter didn't answer. 10 minutes passed. Then the boardroom doors opened. Everyone turned. A man walked inside. Dark suit, white shirt, black tie, calm expression. It took Olivia 3 seconds to recognize him. Her face changed. "Lucas?" The room went completely silent. Lucas looked around, then smiled. "Good morning." Nobody knew what to say. Walter stood. "Lucas Hayes, please have a seat." Lucas nodded. "Thank you, sir." Walter looked around the room. "Serious. Before we begin, there's something you all need to know." He placed placed a folder on the table. For the past 6 months, Sterling Group has been conducting a confidential leadership evaluation. Everyone stared at him. We weren't testing sales. We weren't testing profits. We weren't testing technical knowledge. Walter looked directly at Olivia, firm. We were testing character. Nobody moved. Walter continued. We wanted to know who people were when they had nothing to gain. Who would help someone who couldn't help them back? Who would remain honest when nobody was watching? And most importantly, who could be trusted with power? Then Walter turned toward Lucas, proud. Lucas passed every test. Olivia's eyes widened. Walter smiled. Lucas Hayes was never hired simply to clean this building. He was hired as part of our final leadership evaluation. Someone at the table whispered, "You mean?" Walter nodded. Yes. He picked up a second document. Dramatic. Today, the board has officially approved Lucas Hayes as the next Chief Executive Officer of Sterling Group. The room exploded with gasps. Someone actually stood up. The janitor? Walter smiled, confident. No. He looked at Lucas, the leader. After the meeting, Olivia approached Lucas. She looked nervous. Lucas? He turned. I owe you an apology. Lucas smiled. You don't have to explain. I judged you. Yes? I treated you like you were beneath me. Lucas looked at her for a moment. Then he said, I forgave you a long time ago. Olivia was surprised. Why? Lucas answered, because what you did was your choice, but how I respond is mine. Olivia wiped away a tear. Lucas continued, if you really want to apologize, she nodded, then don't treat the next person who works below you the way you treated me. Olivia smiled through her tears. I won't. Lucas extended his hand. Then we're good. They shook hands, and that moment changed Olivia too. Months later, Sterling Group looked different, not because the building had changed, not because the profits had changed, but because the people had changed. The company started treating every employee with the same basic respect. The security guards, the maintenance workers, the receptionists, the delivery drivers, the assistants, everyone. And hanging in the main lobby was a simple plaque. It read, your position tells people where you work. Your character tells them who you are. Lucas would walk past that plaque every morning. Sometimes he'd stop and look at it. Then he'd smile, because he knew something most people learn far too late. You don't need a corner office to prove you're valuable. You don't need an expensive suit to prove you're important. And you certainly don't need a powerful title to prove you're worthy of respect, because real character shows up when nobody's watching, when there's nothing to gain, when you're treated unfairly, when you could easily choose revenge but choose integrity instead. And maybe that's the real lesson from Lucas Hayes. Never judge someone by the uniform they're wearing, because one day the person you ignored, the person you walked past, the person you thought was beneath you might be the very person sitting across from you at the table, and by then it may be too late to realize their true value. If this story meant something to you, don't just scroll away. Take a second and think about someone in your own life who works behind the scenes, someone whose effort often goes unnoticed. Maybe it's a janitor or a delivery driver, a security guard, a receptionist, or simply someone who has always been there for you without asking for anything in return. If someone came to mind, maybe they deserve a little more respect today. And if you enjoyed this story, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications, because more powerful stories like this are coming. And I want to hear from you. Would you have given Lucas a second chance after firing him? Tell me your answer in the comments. Until next time, remember, don't judge people by the position they hold. Judge them by the character they show when nobody's watching.